We are back. Welcome to Transfer Talk. Developments on the future of Jadon Sancho on the way. Find out if he'll be on the move this January. We'll be talking EFL and Scottish Premiership and much, much more. Don't forget to tweet the show at Sky Sports News. Use the hashtag Transfer Talk. We're going to start with Jadon Sancho because Chelsea fans have been getting in touch ever since this window opened, saying that they want to see Jadon Sancho move to Stamford Bridge, but they're going to be disappointed. Mark McAdam, explain.
Yeah, this is another interesting transfer for January and one of probably the most highly rated youngsters in European football. When we brought it to you on Sky Sports News in the course of the last hour or so, Borussia Dortmund are adamant that Jadon Sancho will not leave the club in January, and that's what our sources, Sky Germany, are telling us. The England international has no release clause and his long-term contract currently keeps him at the club until 2022. However, there are a lot of people interested in Jadon Sancho. He is a quality player. He hasn't featured a great deal for Borussia Dortmund over the course of this season, and there's been one or two off-the-field issues that have been discussed, but he is, without question, very, very good. Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, PSG, Real Madrid and Barcelona have all made inquiries, which gives you an indication as to just how highly coveted he is. Yeah, absolutely. Chelsea fans, get in touch because you have been getting in touch the whole time. Hashtag Transfer Talk. Let us know what you think about this. How big a blow is this for you as Chelsea fans? And Emma, that's exactly what I'm going to ask you. How much of a blow will this be for anyone wanting to sign them?
Yeah, and like Mark said, I mean, he's one of the most sought-after wingers in Europe at the moment. There will be clubs lining up to sign this player, no doubt. But like Mark said, there has been a little straining of relationships with him and Borussia Dortmund this season. I think that's where people's ears pricked up and thought maybe they could sign him in January. So first of all, back in October, he registered late from international duty. He was then dropped, and the sporting director and the manager publicly criticised him from that. And then a month later, during their 4-0 defeat to Bayern Munich, Jadon Sancho was taken off after half an hour when the team were 1-0 down, and the manager came out after, when he was asked about it, said that there's no injury to him, it's just the fact that he wasn't performing very well. So I think people thought, you know, if the manager's coming out and publicly saying this about a young player, it doesn't look great, and maybe there is an opportunity to sign him. But, I mean, no doubt clubs will be lining up for him in the summer, won't they? Yeah, well, that's the thing, because it looks like he's not going anywhere in January then, Michael. But can they still have a firm stance when it comes to the summer?
Well, Borussia Dortmund, they buy very well and they sell very well. They get good profits on players. They have a system which works for them. Now, I think that most top clubs will have Jadon Sancho on their shortlist this summer, and I'm sure Borussia Dortmund are well prepped for it.
Absolutely, and you know, we've talked about the difficult start to the season that he had, but I think from his point of view, he would say that he has bounced back from that really positively. He has been a key part of that Borussia Dortmund side that has got themselves into the last 16 of the Champions League. 18 goals and assists this season for Jadon Sancho. Across the top 5 leagues, that's only one behind Messi and Kevin De Bruyne, so he's not doing too badly at all. And that puts him ahead of Sadio Mane and Kylian Mbappe for those stats as well. So he has been a key part in that Borussia Dortmund side. And from their point of view, from a footballing point of view, we speak about this with Christian Eriksen, but Borussia Dortmund 4th in the Bundesliga at the moment, in a battle for Champions League football. There is no doubt that they would have a better chance of getting into those Champions League places if they keep Jadon Sancho in this window. So for footballing reasons for them, it does not make sense to let him go now. In the summer, if they don't get Champions League football, then those question marks will probably come swirling around him again.
Well, bringing it back to Chelsea then, because there is some news today of a potential outgoing and a potential incoming at Chelsea, both of which in the central defensive area. Right, Emma, what do we know first of all about a centre-back on his way out?
Yeah, so this is what we've been told this morning from Sky in Italy. AC Milan are considering a move for Chelsea centre-back Andreas Christensen. So AC Milan's move for Barcelona defender Jean-Claire Todibo has stalled, and they are now looking at alternative options, and Christensen being one of those. And AC Milan would like any deal to be a loan with an option to buy.
All right, so that's outgoings from the Chelsea centre-backs. In terms of incomings, Chelsea seem keen to replace Christensen if he goes, but the identity of the player is unknown, at least to everyone other than our reporter, Kaveh Solokol.
There's one other player whose name has been mentioned to me. He's a central defender, at a rival Premier League club, and I've been told that Chelsea are very, very keen on signing him. And
who is it then?
Some of the agents involved in the deal are quite hopeful that it could happen this month. I've been sworn to secrecy.
Oh, come on.
Centre-back at a rival Premier League club. Young, very promising young centre-back who would cost at least £50 million.
Yeah, I'll just repeat what Pete Graves said. Oh, come on, Carvey, right? Okay, so we don't know we don't know who that is at this stage. Carvey does, but he won't tell us. Right, Mark, if Christensen does go, is it obvious that Chelsea do need a replacement?
I think that it's definitely obvious that they're going to need to replace a player of his quality, but particularly when you look at the centre-backs that Frank Lampard has at his disposal. Kurt Zouma, 132 Premier League appearances, and then it goes down to Fikayo Tomori with just 15 and Antonio Rudiger with 66. So outside of Kurt Zouma, they have two other players who don't have vast Premier League experience, and that's something they're going to need, particularly when they're pushing for the top four. So you'd imagine that Frank would be desperate to replace Christensen if he does go, and he'd have to find someone with the right type of quality and Premier League experience, and that becomes difficult, particularly when you look at what they're doing. They're building a young, exciting, promising squad for the future, but they still need a bit of quality and a bit of experience, particularly at the back.
Well, there is a graphic we can bring up, actually, from Andreas Christensen's stats. Now, this is compared to three other Chelsea centre-backs, Kurt Zouma, Fikayo Tomori and Antonio Rudiger, and you can see, of the four, his tackle success is the worst, and he's only third out of four in the other three. I mean, minutes played, that's fair enough, that's not his problem, but minutes per clearance and dual success, only third out of the four as well. All right, loads of you have been getting in touch on Chelsea. We asked you to, and you have been all window, actually. George says, I personally think Chelsea only need to tie a deal with Sancho with the intention of bringing him to the club in the summer. I do, however, believe we need to pay whatever it takes to bring him, as he is without a doubt a great long-term investment. Quite a few people having a few jokes about the secret Chelsea £50 million defender. Liam says that Chelsea should go for Moussa Dembele and a centre-back, but stay away from Wilfried Zaha. Quite interesting. Benjamin says Chelsea need to sign more than just Jadon Sancho. They need to sign a centre-back as well. Can they do that in January? And another one from a different George saying he wants to see Ben Chilwell move to Chelsea. We did say that would be the dream move for Frank Lampard in terms of a left-back. However, that is very, very unlikely. Emma, for the Chelsea fans, how exciting is January going to be? The fact that they thought they couldn't sign anyone, and now they can. I think we've gained quite a lot of Chelsea viewers for this show.
You know
actually.
what? They sound excited reading those tweets out. I think obviously a lot of people were hoping that they would bring Jayden Sancho in. Obviously, he's #1 target, I'm sure, for Chelsea. But we spoke about it so much in the summer that they couldn't bring players in. They were under that transfer embargo, and also they lost Eden Hazard. What were they going to do? And they almost had to bring in the youngsters out of circumstance. But you look at them now, they're fourth in the table. These youngsters have done incredibly well, the likes of Tammy Abraham, Mason Mount. And one of those is Fikayo Tomori, who is in centre-back position. He signed a 5-year deal with Chelsea back in December. He's been called up to the England squad since then as well. He's a young Chelsea boy at heart, so I think they're doing very well as it is. You know, Chelsea fans, of course, will get excited if they are going to bring players in.
And Dave, we mentioned that they did have a transfer ban and it was, you know, rescinded for this window. But Chelsea will have been planning anyway, just in case they did win that appeal, which they did.
No doubt about it. You know, all the recruitment teams across Premier League, Championship, League One and League Two are planning for the window ahead, sometimes even the window after that one as well. There's no doubt that Chelsea would have been planning for a scenario where that transfer ban was reduced, which proved to be the case. And the link to this mystery defender from Carvey would make sense if Andreas Christensen did leave the club. You know, potentially he would have gone in the summer had the transfer ban not been in place at that point. There have been a number of stories over the last 2 to 3 windows about Christensen leaving Stamford Bridge to go to other clubs in Europe. I think he's stated in the past as well that he's at the stage of his career where he needs more minutes. And it seems at the moment like, you know, we showed those stats there in terms of minutes played. He's not been part of Frank Lampard's first choice 2 centre-back pairing.
Michael, when Frank Lampard got the job in the summer, we don't know what his aim will have been in terms of where they finish. We don't know what Roman Abramovich will have told him to do. But either way, he could actually, especially with this ban being lifted, have a great first season.
I really appreciate Mark earlier reminding everyone that I said Leicester to finish in the top 4, but I'm going to admit here I did not see. So I'm going to admit something. I'm going to be fair here. I didn't see Chelsea finishing anywhere near the top 4 this season. I've got to be honest. So fair play to Frank Lampard. I think they're having a very good season. But now they're in this position, there's absolutely no way Chelsea want to lose it. Sides below them don't look like they want it at the moment because Spurs, United, Wolves, Arsenal have dropped points throughout. If Chelsea finish in the top 4 this season, what a fantastic first season for Frank Lampard. But they're still in the FA Cup, still in the Champions League, so they're probably talking, him, Jody Morris and the board, why don't we get a couple in? Now we can do it.
It's almost like they've overachieved in the first half of the season, and now the pressure's on because people are expecting them to continue this good form and actually get better. And that's the thing, it's a long season in the Premier League, and some of the younger players are obviously still finding their feet, they're still working out the league and how tough it is. So it is going to get more difficult week by week, and the pressure's going to start ramping up, and that's sometimes where you see the pressure really telling is on the youngsters because they've never been in that position before.
Loads of other stories to get through. Let's get to state of play now with Emma.
Yeah, Inter Milan are in talks with Manchester United over signing Ashley Young. Crystal Palace are interested in Schalke midfielder Nabil Bentaleb, according to a source in Germany. Fiorentina are in talks with Wolves over signing forward Patrick Catrone on loan until the end of the season. West Ham and Benfica are still hopeful of concluding a deal for the signing of Jadon Fernandez, with the next 72 hours crucial. And Newcastle United are interested in RB Leipzig winger Ademola Lookman and are expected to make a loan offer with an option to buy.
Yeah, more on that Newcastle Ademola Lookman deal in a few moments' time. But now, Dave, we've talked about Chelsea. Maybe it's time to talk about another club right up there.
Absolutely, yes. Now, Jerome has tweeted us this morning and he said, any update on Liverpool signing anyone? Well, Jerome, here we go. Let's talk about Liverpool's wish list for this January transfer window. And the easy answer to this question is, well, they don't really need that much, do they? As Liverpool did with signings of Alisson and Fabinho in the summer of 2018, they acted early in this January window and brought in Takumi Minamino from Red Bull Salzburg for a bargain basement price. They are 13 points clear at the top of the Premier League, and they're officially the best club in the world. So things couldn't be going much better for you, Jerome, could they? And all the other Liverpool fans out there, and obviously the manager Jurgen Klopp as well. Now, Liverpool would be open to anything that can improve on what they've got, but those players are going to be very, very hard to come by. And we talked about Liverpool being open to anything there. I'm sure Jadon Sancho would probably be near the top of that list as something that might, in Liverpool fans' eyes, improve their squad. So they'd be one of those teams disappointed perhaps with the news today that he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, there was actually a tweet. It's actually brilliant. I found it. It's from Steve, who says, sorry, panel, but there is only one club that will sign Jayden Sancho, and that is Liverpool. Sorry to disappoint all the other clubs. You've got no chance. You'll never walk alone. All right, so that's Steve's view. He wants Jayden Sancho eventually. But, Mark, this is a great position for Liverpool to be in. They're top of the league. They don't need to bring anyone. I think we all agree with that. They can be relaxed in this window, and if someone comes up, they come up.
Absolutely, and it's sensible if you ask me. Like Dave says, they're the best team in world football right now. They won the Champions League, they've won the Club World Cup. They are absolutely on the money. But this is what I love about what Liverpool are doing. They're thinking ahead, and that's something that very few Premier League sides and Premier League managers have ever really done. You look at Sir Alex Ferguson. Not only did he have one great Manchester United team and one great era, he had 5 or 6 because he was the master at reinventing a side and building for the future. He always had one eye on now and one eye on who was coming through and how he was going to not win the title next season, but in 3 seasons, in 5 seasons. And that's what Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp are doing right now. They're bringing in players who can be really, really important for them in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And that's where you see the success when they win back-to-back titles. Arsene Wenger was superb, but he didn't win back-to-back Premier League titles. He had that long spell. You see Jose Mourinho did it for a few years, but again, after a while, it stopped. And it's about reinvention. And that's something that Liverpool look like they're trying to do by attracting the best players. And then not only are they going to win the Premier League this season, but they could win it 3 or 4, 5 years in a row if they get the signings right.
Yeah, I can't see why anyone would want to leave Liverpool right now as well, when there's the chance of a Premier League winners' medal on the line. And Emma, one of those players has said something about their future, haven't they?
Yeah, well, that player's Gini Wijnaldum. Lots of reports out there saying that when his contract is up, that's just Michael waving to Dillian White as well. Let's get back to the transfer.
Dillian White was waving at him, actually.
He waved at me.
Yeah, so was he? Lots of reports that Gini Wijnaldum, his contract is up in 18 months, and lots of reports out there that he could leave Anfield at the end of this 18 months. And he's come out and said, I'm very happy at Liverpool. It is the best club in the world. I want to stay at Anfield for as long as possible. Like you said, who would want to leave at this time? But Wijnaldum's a really underrated player, I think, probably not amongst Liverpool fans. But when we talk about Liverpool, we talk about Salah, Mane, Firmino, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Wijnaldum kind of goes under the radar a little bit, and he's featured in all but one of Liverpool's games this season. Probably no coincidence there. He is a big game player, scored a couple of goals in that incredible comeback win over Barcelona last year. So I think, yeah, positive news. And of course, he clearly likes Jurgen Klopp as well. Michael, you'll probably know more about this, but he obviously had the opportunity to join Spurs before as well, and it was more Klopp that brought him to Anfield.
It was interesting because, talk about Wijnaldum, also Jordan Henderson as well. Jurgen Klopp saying, if you can't appreciate Jordan Henderson, I cannot help you.
But Wijnaldum and Henderson similar, where they've almost had to give up their kind of attacking role for the benefit of the side, because Wijnaldum plays a lot more attacking for the Netherlands.
Yeah, all right, underrated players, certainly. Right, don't forget, download the latest Transfer Talk podcast available on iTunes, Spreaker and the Sky Sports website. Next, focus turns to the EFL. to his front room in Newcastle. Keith, we know this is a story. Well, I hope it is a front room anyway. It's a story that you're all over, and I believe you've got a fresh update for us.
Listen, Tom, I've just taken the pictures off the wall in the background. But we broke the news to you last night about Newcastle's interest in Ademola Lookman, didn't we? We said that they were keen to bring him in on a loan deal until the end of the season, with the potential to make it permanent in the summer. I can tell you there's been a slight update in the last hour or so. They have, Newcastle, we can tell you, held preliminary discussions with Leipzig over the 22-year-old. As I say, they're interested in bringing him in on loan with a view to making it permanent in the summer. I'm told that no figures have actually been discussed yet, but Newcastle have made that inquiry to the Bundesliga leaders. Lookman, we are told, is keen on a move back to England. He only signed for Leipzig in the summer for just over £22 million from Everton. Struggled for game time since making that switch permanent. Initially, he went there on loan a year and a half ago, and he did terrifically well in that 6 months. But he's really struggled in the last 6 months. Keen to come back to England, and Newcastle keen to bring him in.
So, I mean, what will Lookman offer to Newcastle? Because we were kind of talking about the position he plays isn't necessarily what Newcastle needs. So why do they want him?
Well, I mean, I do think their priority, without doubt, and I've been saying that, as you know, for the last couple of days on the show, is a striker. They want to bring in a number 9 to try and help Joe Linton, who's really obviously struggling for goals and confidence right now. But I have been saying for a number of weeks that they are looking to add in the wide areas as well. Alan St-Maximin, who has been terrific since he arrived, is currently out injured and is probably still a week or two away from a return. And it might just take him a number to get him back up to speed. They also have Miguel Almiron, but I think they prefer to play him in a more central role, and that only leaves them Christian Atsu out wide. So Steve Bruce will want another option for the remainder of the season. You have to say Lookman does fit the bill. He wants players who can carry the ball at pace up the pitch, because Newcastle do play on the counter-attack. So you can imagine him fitting in well to the style of play that Newcastle are playing, that defensive style, trying to hit on the break. So, yeah, he will add. I don't know whether he's going to walk into the starting 11. He certainly hasn't played a lot of football, but there's still a lot of work to do in this deal. I mean, as I say to you, they have held preliminary discussions with Leipzig, but no figures have been mentioned just yet. So there's a bit of work to do. A lot of Newcastle supporters asking me on social media as to why they're trying to bring in a winger when they haven't got a striker yet. But as you know, it doesn't work that way in January. And I'm sure Newcastle are trying desperately to bring in a striker. If the winger just does happen to come off first, then so be it. They'll have to do that. But I do expect them to still bring in a striker, so Newcastle supporters fear not. But I suppose positive for them that Bruce is looking to add in other areas of the pitch as well, out wide, and as I've been saying for the last couple of days, in central midfield as well.
Great stuff, Keith. Thank you. We'll see you back in the studio Monday and Tuesday.
Cheers.
Keith Downey there on the subject of Newcastle and Ademola Lookman. Now it's time for our feature of Stay or Go. You got your boards, all right? We pick a player who's in the news at the moment and say, should he stay or should he go? And it is Ashley Young. I'll tell you what the current situation is. Inter Milan want him and they're willing to offer him an 18-month contract. Stay or go? Lads and lasses.
I'm kind of a...
No, you've got to go stay or go. You're not allowed a half, Mark. OK, 3 stays and only 1 go. All right, I tell you what, we will get to you, Dave.
OK.
Michael, why should he stay?
I'm saying stay from Manchester United's point of view. They can't let go another experienced player. I think that's part of the problem with Manchester United this season. We know they've got fantastic young players, but they need experience. And I mentioned this morning on Good Morning Transfers, as wonderful it is for Marcus Rashford to have the captain's armband, does he need that responsibility at the moment? I want to show you a graphic on Manchester United's captains this season. Here we go. Ashley Young, 14 occasions this season he's been captain. Harry Maguire, we mentioned as well about being captain this season. Is he ready? Give him time to mould himself into a Manchester United player. And then below that, David De Gea, 4, and the rest are 1s. Look at the experience they could be losing, guys.
Yeah, OK, so why should he leave then, Dave?
I was actually expecting someone else to say go as well, to be honest. I thought we'd be split.
You had a half.
Almost.
Yeah, you were a half and half. Well, I mean, he's obviously 34 years of age, coming towards the end of his career, I think that's fair to say, and Sky in Italy saying that he will be offered an 18-month contract, and those just don't come along every day for a player of Ashley Young's age. Inter Milan haven't won the Scudetto since 2010. They're top of the league. Ashley Young could go out there and win a title within 5 months of joining. Now, if that's not a reason, a really big reason to go, then I don't know what is. You know, Juventus have been dominating Serie A. Inter Milan, Antonio Conte are going places. And Inter and Manchester United have done deals before. Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez. The relationship is there already. He's probably been on the phone to Chris Smalling, his former Manchester United teammate, about what life is like over in Italy for him. And yeah, I just think, you know, if Ashley Young wants to go and experience something else right at the back end of his career, then there's no reason to turn down Inter Milan, especially if he goes there and wins something.
Right, 3 stays and 1 go there on Ashley Young. Right, OK, let's leave the Serie A and leave the Premier League right now. Emma, if you can get over to the Sky card.
We're leaving the Premier League, but not for too long. But follow me over here. Follow me. Yeah, we talk a lot about the Premier League, but let's focus on the Championship now. And let's start with Fulham. They are still in the race for promotion, of course, back to the Premier League, 5th in the table at the moment. So what do they need to do? And perhaps the most obvious one here is don't let Alexander Mitrovic leave the club. He is the club's top scorer this season, the Championship's top scorer with 18 goals. Who knows where they'd be without him? He has been linked to a couple of Premier League clubs as well, but Scott Parker will need to hold on to him if they are to bounce straight back up. Now, 3 points worse than Fulham are Sheffield Wednesday. So what do they need to do in January? First of all, the club can bring players in. They announced recently that they will not be placed under a transfer embargo until their dispute with the EFL is resolved. So that all centres around the sale of Hillsborough, of course. But yeah, they have had an injury to one of their key players, Stephen Fletcher. He went off injured in their FA Cup win over Brighton and looks to be out for some time. So they are now in even more need of a striker in this January transfer window. Gary Monk has said he would only be looking at loan signings. Now, one name linked with a move to Hillsborough is that one of Eddie Nketiah. So a familiar name, guys, linked with a move to Hillsborough.
We're going to go back to you, Emma, on Eddie Nketiah in a moment. But going back to Fulham and Alexander Mitrovic, Michael, you're a big fan of his.
Huge fan. I think he's a Premier League striker playing in the Championship. I think he's proved it in the Premier League as well. And I think if a club did sign him, he'd adapt absolutely fine. From Fulham's point of view, they can forget about promotion if they were to sell him. I just cannot see it. And Emma and I, you know, we speak to Scott Parker quite a lot, and he'd be hugely disappointed if they lost him.
Yeah, we're talking about how Newcastle need a striker. They're the ones who let him go, albeit for what was deemed to be a very good fee at the time. So say we get back to Eddie Nketiah, Emma. Emma, he seems to be very much in demand after his loan spell finished at Leeds.
Yeah, no surprises really, although he didn't actually play that much at Leeds. But one of the stories I remember I heard years ago about he was released at Chelsea under 14s because they thought this player was far too small to ever make it in the professional game. And it was the head of Arsenal's academy recruitment at the time got Joe Willock into his office and said, have you ever heard of this guy, Eddie Nketiah? And Willock's reply was, Nketiah, he's available, he's sick. That was his reply. So the rest is history. They got him in and, you know, obviously he's back at Arsenal at the moment, but there are a few clubs interested in him, the likes of Bristol City, Nottingham Forest and Sheffield Wednesday as well. So it'd be interesting to see where he ends up at the end of this month.
Yeah, it looks like he will certainly go somewhere. Right, so much to keep going. Keep your thoughts coming in, by the way. Hashtag Transfer Talk on Twitter. We'll be with Michael next discussing Tottenham. Will they be busy this month?
It's a big January for Tottenham Hotspur. Well, Jose Mourinho didn't expect too much business a few weeks ago, but since then, they've lost Harry Kane and yesterday, Moussa Sissoko to what looks a long-term injury. Mourinho himself was concerned by the club's lack of firepower in their draw at Middlesbrough on Sunday. Now, Spurs are looking at a right-back, well documented, of course. Max Aarons from Norwich has been mentioned, but that could be one more for the summer than now. Now, there are newspaper reports you might have seen this morning, Wilf Zaha with a move to Spurs being linked. I'm told that is not the case and do not expect a development on that one. Central midfield, it's becoming a real concern now. Tanguy Ndombele, record signing. He's always injured. It's not my words, it's Jose Mourinho's. Mourinho has also got the Christian Eriksen conundrum. He's free to sign a pre-contract agreement with foreign clubs, but Mourinho says every outcome is still on the table. Mourinho has started Eriksen in Tottenham's last 3 games. Now, Giovanni Lo Celso's loan move, could become permanent, but it is still unclear whether he is in Jose Mourinho's long-term plans. Now, should Spurs qualify for the Champions League, then the Lo Celso deal automatically becomes permanent for another £34 million. Now, staying with the midfield, despite issues there, Victor Wanyama is still expected to leave, so it does leave them stretched with plenty of games to come in 3 competitions. Spurs fans, I know you've been tweeting, I know you want signings, but will you get them? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you know, but he doesn't know. Right, Mark, OK, in central midfield there, Michael was quite clear that they are short in central midfield, especially with that Sissoko injury. Is that the case?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone knows, it is Michael Bridge. So if he doesn't know, then no one knows. Obviously, they are going through a bit of a transition at the moment. They had a great 5 years under Maurizio Pochettino. The end of that era is gone now, and it's the start of a new one. And you always know between the end of one side and one manager and the start of a new one, there is always going to be some teething problems. You're seeing it at Arsenal, you're seeing it at Manchester United, and it will take a little while to get it right. So it is going to be a tough time for Tottenham. And looking at midfield, like you rightly say, Tom, that's obviously a key area. We heard oozing expressions on talking about the midfielders that are at the club at the moment, and it's like a polo and a bagel, and there's nothing in the middle. You look at what they've got. Eric Dyer, obviously a player with vast experience. Victor Wanyama, as Michael Bridge said, looks to be heading out of North London, and then that leaves just Harry Winks with 41 Premier League appearances. So they really are lacking through the middle, and they're going to need to find someone who can bring that experience, solidify things up through the middle, because that is such a crucial role, particularly for a Mourinho team.
Yeah, expressions also said that he was walking away like Craig David and they would sign no one like Alicia Keys. Right, OK, so that's central midfield. Giovanni Lo Celso, Dave, I know he plays a little bit more advanced and sometimes can play wide, but is it time for him to, once he's fit now, to kind of adapt to the English game?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say Tottenham fans might not agree, but he's had a difficult start to life at Tottenham. Often South American players take a little bit of time to settle in to the Premier League, so I'm sure Tottenham fans will be hoping that the best is still to come from Giovanni Lo Celso, and perhaps given a little bit more responsibility, then he might thrive under that.
A story coming out of League Two now, Dave, and if I said that Bradford had recalled Owen Doyle from Swindon, people might think it wasn't big news, but actually, Dave, this is a really interesting story.
Yeah, this has just come in. Bradford recalling Owen Doyle from his loan at Swindon. The Ginger Pele he's called. He's got 23 goals this season. Has been a major reason for Swindon being top of the League Two table at the moment. And Bradford, who are 4th in the league at the minute, you would think, would be very eager to get him back from loan because he'd been in such good form for Swindon this year. And so Bradford have managed to get him back, and I think that probably puts a little bit more pressure on Swindon's other players to get the goals. Jerry Yates is their second top scorer. He's got 11 goals this season. So big news this, because he's been in such sparkling form, Owen Doyle, and he was a player that Bradford were ready to let go in the summer, and now he scored more goals than Lionel Messi this season. Fantastic.
Yeah, I think he could really, really help them now for the rest of the season in League Two. Bit of I think they call it a no-brainer, bringing him back. OK, let's go back to the Premier League. And Crystal Palace, we're told, are interested in Schalke midfielder Nabil Bentaleb, according to a source in Germany. Former Tottenham player, wasn't he? Michael, what's the latest with this one?
I really feel for Palace fans. We get it every year. It is like Groundhog Day. They want players. Nabil Bentaleb would like to come back to England. He loved London. Palace, there is tentative interest, I'm told, but they are looking at other areas to strengthen as well. He's an academy graduate. They will know him quite well as well. But to be honest with you, they need to strengthen in most areas as well. And Roy Hodgson said he's struggling to put out an 11 when they face Arsenal on Saturday. It's not that bad at the moment, but they really are looking for players.
They're looking for players, but is central midfield an area where they're particularly short? Because that's not what we've been getting from people who've been tweeting in.
No, I mean, they've got Max Mayer, the Mayor of London. They've got James McArthur, Victor Camarasa. They spent nearly all summer securing him on loan. He's barely played for Crystal Palace. For me, I look at Palace, they need a striker, at least one, a right back, which we all know about, and potentially a left back. And they're looking at players around the mould of 23 and under. But where they get them, we don't know. But there's always something done at Palace on deadline day. They left me waiting until 2 a.m. last January in the snow.
Have you got a new pair of gloves this year?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Not that you complain, right? Dave, in terms of Nabil Bentaleb, though, we were trying to actually bring up some stats of him, and we weren't able to. Why?
Well, he's not really played at all for the last year or so. He's not been a part of Schalke's first team for the last 12 months. We're hearing due to unprofessional behaviour. That included being late and failing to report for German lessons. He's currently training with their second team after recovering from a knee injury, while the first team is on a winter training camp in Spain. Obviously, over in the Bundesliga, they have a break over the Christmas period, not due back for another 10 days or so for their next fixture. But it's been a difficult time, obviously, for Nabil Bentaleb over in the Bundesliga, and it doesn't look like at the minute there's a way back for him there.
He was in England for a long time, so presumably he speaks English. That part of it won't be a problem, but that alleged unprofessionalism, could that put other clubs off signing him?
Potentially. I don't think, you know, when clubs make their signings, they do all the due diligence, they ring around to find out the character of the player, as well as all the stats and all the video clips that they can watch. A lot of emphasis is put on the personality that he's going to be coming into a squad, so I don't think there's any doubt that there'll be questions asked of him about what happened or what's happening right now for him in Germany. But on the other hand, if he does end up moving, the club is getting a player that you would think would want to prove a point.
Yeah, I suppose at Palace as well, I mean, Michael, you probably know more about this than me, as you're obviously really involved with the club, but players that might be leaving, Christian Benteke, had such a sort of drastic demise, really. Think when Liverpool signed him back in 2015 from Aston Villa, 42 goals in 89 appearances. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp came in, he didn't really sort of fit into that sort of heavy metal style of play. Then went to Crystal Palace, his first season, looked like he'd found form again, you know, that sort of lone striker position with Zaha and Townsend supporting him. But now again, not in great form. It looks like his confidence is at a real low as well. Do you think he could leave? I don't know.
I can't see anyone leaving Crystal Palace this January unless Roy Hodgson gives the nod. And that includes Wilfried Zaha. I mean, his name's been brought up again today. I think that'll be in the summer. I can't see it happening now. It would take some serious money. In terms of Benteke, it's been tough for him. The fans love him, but he's not scoring goals. And a couple of seasons ago when he took a penalty and he wasn't a designated penalty taker, I still wonder whether that's had some kind of psychological effect on him. As I say, the fans do love him. They've always stuck behind him, but they do need to start scoring goals, and they're just not doing it.
Right, plenty to come this lunchtime on Transfer Talk. We're taking a close look at Manchester City. We'll have updates from the Scottish Premiership as well. Bit of news just into us from Watford, and it involves Fulham as well, because Watford are considering a bid for Fulham's left-back, Joe Bryan. OK, Nigel Pearson, he does want a left-back, and he's watched Bryan on numerous occasions over the past months, or Watford have watched him on numerous occasions over the past 2 months. The former Bristol City defender moved to Fulham for £6 million 18 months ago. He's made 27 appearances this season. They want a new left-back because Holebas is injured. He's got an ankle injury. They've also got Adam Messina at left-back as well, but they obviously want another one in Joe Bryan. Their number one target, however, is a centre-back, but Nigel Pearson wants to strengthen all of the defence, so right-back, centre-back and left-back. At the moment, in terms of just defenders this is on Watford's injury list, Sebastian Podol's out long-term with a shin injury. Craig Cathcart came off in the Wolves game with a knee injury. Daryl Janmaat, the right-back, is long-term with a knee injury. Kiko Femenia is also a right-back. He went off with a hamstring injury. Holebas, as we said, is a left-back with an ankle injury. And Christian Cabaselo is suspended, and he's a centre-back. So you can see why Nigel Pearson is looking to strengthen the defence. Right, Emma's over at the Sky Pad. What you got for us, Emma?
Yeah, well, every day we've been looking at what Premier League's clubs need to do in this January transfer window to strengthen. So right now, let's take a look at Manchester City. And we all know that they're looking for a central defender, but the real question is whether they'd be prepared to get involved in the January market that they work so hard to avoid. Pep Guardiola said time and time again they will not be signing anyone in this window. And now we know the search for a replacement for Vincent Kompany has been ongoing since the summer. Bournemouth's Nathan Ake is the latest player to be linked with the club, and he could be available due to a £40 million buyback clause agreed with his former club Chelsea. But like I said, Guardiola has consistently said City are not going to sign anyone until the summer.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, last season, I remember everyone saying, oh, you know, if Fernandinho gets injured, and he did, Manchester City don't have a defensive central midfielder if Fernandinho gets injured as backup. And here we are now, kind of similar situation when it comes to centre-backs, Mark. Can you understand any reason why Guardiola wouldn't want to buy one?
No, I think he's desperate for a centre-back, particularly with the injury problems that Emma mentioned there. But also, I think he's not just lacking a centre-back, he's lacking a leader. And it just seems almost unimaginable that Manchester City, the absolutely informed team of last season, they blew everyone away in the Premier League and, of course, in the cup competitions, and they were obviously just in front of Liverpool, and it was such an exciting title race, but they just haven't pushed on. And you just wonder that lack of leadership in the dressing room and that lack of leadership at the back, how much it's costing them this season. I think Pep would be desperate to get someone in. He's been quite persistent that January isn't the window to do it, but I really think he needs someone.
He has, Michael. He's been so adamant, hasn't he, that he doesn't want to sign anyone in this window. But I suppose Laporte is coming back.
Yeah, and he's one of the best around. I mean, he's a fantastic defender, but it does surprise me. Look, managers often deny, but then they get the opportunity to bring someone in. The director will say, look, here's an offer here, I've got a player, do you want him, yes or no? You look at Manchester City's defeats this season, I'm just thinking at the top of my head, Norwich, Manchester United at home, poor goals they conceded in those games. And you do feel they're so far away from Liverpool. They're even behind Leicester, and it is because, for me, they are missing that key experience at the back, because we saw it last time. Going forward, they're a dream.
I mean, of course, in terms of young centre-backs, Taylor Harwood-Bellis actually scored in the FA Cup on Saturday. They've got young Eric Garcia as well, so maybe that's why he doesn't see it as a key area to strengthen this month. Right, more stories now in State of Play with Mark.
Yes, Inter Milan are in talks with Manchester United over signing Ashley Young. Crystal Palace are interested in Schalke midfielder Nabil Bentaleb, according to one of our sources in Germany. West Ham and Benfica are still hopeful of concluding a deal for the transfer of Jadon Fernandez, with the next 72 hours crucial. Newcastle have held preliminary discussions with RB Leipzig over a potential loan move for Ademola Lookman. They are interested in bringing the former Everton man to Tyneside, with an option to make it a permanent move in the summer.
That was State of Play. Michael, I think you better get yourself over to the Sky Pad and tell us all about what's going on in Scotland.
I'll tell you what, it might be the winter break in Scotland, but no one's having a break. No one's having a break. Let's have a look at the Scottish Premiership table. Look at this. Look how tight it is at the top. Rangers with a game in hand after beating Celtic the other week. 2 points behind, but with that game in hand. So Celtic, Rangers and now Aberdeen in Dubai for warm weather training. But as I say, look at the table. But even at the bottom, Hearts struggling. 13 points. They'll be looking to add players this January as well. Glenn Whelan leaving the club yesterday. But let's go back to Celtic, who currently lead the Premiership. My colleague Charles Patterson has been speaking to manager Neil Lennon, and in particular on the future of Odsonne Edouard, who's been linked with a move to Leicester. Here's what he's had to say.
We want Odsonne here. Like I said, we've got a huge second half of the season, and he's made a huge contribution, you know, with his play, with his goals, with his influence on the team. And, you know, we're certainly not in a position to want to lose that right now.
OK, so Edouard will be staying. Great news for you Celtic fans. But one man who looks to be on his way out is Scott Sinclair. Preston, his likely destination. Let's hear from Lennon on that deal.
He leaves a huge legacy. You know, he's had a tremendous Celtic career. It's just his playing time was limited this season, and he's a fantastic professional. You know, and he's been fantastic to have around the place. But, you know, ultimately players want to play, and we couldn't guarantee him that. So, you know, Scott's looking at the option of going to Preston.
So that's Celtic, but what about Rangers? I'm told from a very good source that one max, if is the key word here, if Rangers are to bring anyone in. They're concentrating on outgoings and potential loans. Eros Grezda has already left the club. Now, Alfredo Morelos and Glenn Kamara are admired elsewhere. Highly unlikely Rangers would consider any bids for these two players, key players, and Kamara, not much spoke about him, absolute key player in the middle for Rangers, and they'll have a big say in the title race. As I told you about Aberdeen in fourth, they have arrived in Dubai today, and we'll be with them throughout their time there as well. We'll be across all the Scottish Premiership clubs if they do business throughout January. One more look at the table. It is tight at the top.
It is. I tell you what, I'm absolutely loving the title race. That Old Firm game last week was so entertaining. One of the best games I've seen for a long time. By the way, Rangers Celtic, we might have time to read out some of your tweets, so get them in. Hashtag transfer talk might be time in a couple of minutes. Right, we're going to go back to the Premier League now, though, and developments involving Patrick Cutrone at Wolves, Dave.
Yes, he's returned to training today with Wolves after talks with Fiorentina over a move have stalled. Now, the Serie A club had offered a loan deal with a view to a permanent move for the Wolves striker, and it's understood that Cutrone was keen on entering talks with Fiorentina. However, it seems now those talks have reached a bit of an impasse, and Cutrone is back with the first team squad. He has spoken to the head coach, Nuno Espirito Santo, on Friday, and he was then subsequently left out of the side's FA Cup match with Manchester United. It appears that a move would work for both the player and the club in this situation, and in particular for the player, I think his heart is set on a move back to Italy, either by a permanent move to Fiorentina or a deal with another club if they can come in and make that happen. But at the moment, it seems like this move for Patrick Cutrone away from Wolverhampton Wanderers to Fiorentina has stalled, and they've reached a bit of an impasse. We wait to find out whether those talks will restart. It's a bit of a shame for him, probably, because, and a shame for Wolves, really, because he was brought in as a flagship signing last summer, £16 million. I remember Nuno Espirito Santo calling that December schedule for Wolves absurd. And then over the Christmas fixtures, he played only 1 minute of football for Cutrone when Wolves played 4 games in 11 days. So that says something about perhaps where he is in the pecking order at Wolves. But at the moment, it seems like this move for Cutrone has just stalled for a bit.
It doesn't help Cutrone, does it, that Raul Jimenez has just been so good?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Nuno Espirito Santo has settled on that 3-4-3 formation, and Adama Traore on the right of those three, Raul Jimenez and Diogo Jota as well. They've almost been undroppable this season, and it's been very difficult for Cutrone to get in.
Right, we've just got some time to tell you some news that's just into us, and you're like this, Michael, it's something you predicted, actually, because Tottenham are now considering going into the transfer market. Jose Mourinho's always said since he got the job he doesn't want to sign anyone in January. That is changing. However, they're looking at a midfielder, but only on loan because of the injury crisis. More on that and Sky Sports News coming up next. Remember, the Transfer Talk podcast is available to download right now, iTunes, Spreaker and the Sky Sports website. We're back in the morning, 9 o'clock. Good morning, Transfers, with their new panel member, James Green, will be making his debut tomorrow. Transfer Talk returns tomorrow at midday. And another new panel member, Ade Oladipo, is coming in, so we welcome them. Dharmesh and Kaveh still to come today, 7 o'clock tonight for the Transfer Show. Coming up on Sky Sports News, more on that Tottenham deal, and we'll hear from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer following their defeat in the EFL Cup last night to Manchester City.